please see to it that your seat belts are tight, etc., etc. Sila po yung mga nagvo-voice over para sa mga iba-ibang produkto and kinakarir ng pamilya nila itong pagbo-voice. So, and then we will also be speaking to government officials. So, for today, we will have with us Attorney Domingo Cayosa, President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, to help us understand or at least clarify certain points regarding the move, the directives of Chief Ombudsman Martires, where he basically ordered, I think, the Office of the Ombudsman not to release any copy of SAL-Ns of their officials because he just doesn't agree with the spirit of the law or the way the law is written. Although former Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales said, baka lang hindi niya nabasa ng maigi o naintindihan ng maigi yung batas because as far as the law is concerned, all government officials are supposed to file their statements of assets and liabilities. Diyan nga po yung dahilan kung bakit some congressman ba yun o senator na tumakbo in past elections, medyo naantala, sumabit o nagkasakit ng ulo because of their failure to properly file SAL-Ns. I don't know. I remember, I think it was also used against a former Chief Justice. Di po ba? In any case, we will ask Attorney Cayosa regarding this brouhaha about SAL-Ns and about lifestyle check. Talaga bang inaabuso itong lifestyle check? Talaga bang maraming mga pinagbibintangan na walang batayan, ginagamit lang, as Ombudsman Martires put it, weaponizing this lifestyle check principle. After that, we will speak with our friend, and of course, someone that we support on agenda, presidential advisor on entrepreneurship and creativity na rin siguro, Joey Concepcion, because we want to talk more about, kasi meron po yung laway lang. Laway lang. All you need is to gargle and you can already be tested for COVID. May mga kaibigan tayo, pinapakita na nga sa Facebook, yung sinasalaksak yung kanilang ilong at lalamunan for swab. Eto laway lang, magmumumug ka lang, may testing ka na. And other concerns and also this, this tension now between the mayors who want to extend GCQ and the presidential advisor Concepcion, as well as Secretary Mon Lopez, who want to go to MGCQ, mas more relaxed. Kasi nga naman puro tayo GCQ, hindi na matututong maging mamuhay ng maayos under COVID-19 ang Pilipino kung lagi na lang natin binibaby at kinukulong. After Joey Concepcion, we will interview the Testing Czar. Let's find out from Secretary Vince Dizon, Deputy Chief Implementer National Task Force Against COVID, regarding the move, the final hallelujah move of the DOH to place a price cap on all testing, COVID-19 testing, RT-PCR testing. Kasi po, dyan nagsisimula yung problema. Naghahatakan ng presyo, nagkakaroon ng overpricing. Kumbaga, kung may pera ka, mayaman ka, mabilis ang resulta mo. Kung ikaw ay OFW, maghintay kang nakatunganga sa isolation facility. And finally, last but not the least, yun nga ang pinangako ko sa inyo, what I promised you, we will interview the voiceover talents, the mystery personalities doon po sa mga sikat na mga voiceover na palagi niyong naririnig at naging mana-mana. Una yung nanay at pagkatapos yung anak. At mukhang pinagkakaguluhan na yan sa internet. A lot of people, in fact, I just saw one on Steve Harvey's show where he featured a girl who could actually copy Siri. We'll touch on all of that later today. Let's first move to the stories from the front page of the Philippine Star. Health officials are closely monitoring the surge in critical cases in the past 2 days to see if there is a need to change the quarantine status in Metro Manila by October 1. Health Undersecretary and Treatment Czar Leopoldo Vega said that there has been a 2% surge in critical cases and that the DOH has now mobilized surveillance units to verify the extent of these reported critical cases. Vega acknowledged that they were surprised by the development but not alarmed, as we still have adequate beds in Metro Manila. Just a commentary on this issue because yesterday when we interviewed Governor Dodo Mandanas of Batangas, sinabi na rin po niya na napansin na nila na yung mga matatanda, the elderly, with comorbidities, meaning matanda ka na, may diferensya ka pa. You're either sobra kang taba, obese, you are diabetic, you have heart problem, or you have asthma, etc., etc. Medyo kumbaga no, meron ka ng double ring for a bullseye sa likod mo for COVID-19. In this case, I've been monitoring the news and the interviews. It seems that there is a suspicion that many of these critical cases arise from the fact that people have waited too long and went to the hospitals too late. Kumbaga, dying ka na, last chance ka na nung pumunta ka sa hospital. And if you're a regular viewer of Agenda, I have said alongside our guests in the past, we have said that if you feel something that could be COVID related, may ubo ka, may lagnat ka, may LBM ka na medyo unusual, etc., etc., hindi ka makahinga. Parang akala, hindi mo maintindihan, wala naman akong hika, pero ba't para akong hinihika? O yung baga mo, parang may tubig. Then you have to go to the hospital. Now, this is not about hospital beds or ICUs. This is about a serious lack of public information and aligned communication. Because some people still say, yeah, well, unless you're serious, don't go to the hospital. I mean, I've heard a few people here on the show say that. In fact, meron nga akong kinorek. Sinabi ko, kanya ka montik na matuluyan. Kasi naghintay ka, montik ka ng serious ka na bago ka pumunta sa hospital. We need to call the attention of the communications people of the government. Please, get your mind and your mouths off the opposition. Get your mind and your mouths off the South China Sea conflict and focus on public information because people are dying. Hindi po tayo nakikipag-away sa gobyerno, pero parang nagtetengang kawali kayo eh. Kailangan maintindihan ng tao na kung may diferensya, may nararamdaman, pumunta na sa ospital. The public must be reassured that the hospitals are safe to go to. And we need to remind the public to have flu vaccine, pneumonia vaccine. Ako naka-flu vaccine na, hindi pa ako na pneumonia vaccine. Anyway, I'm prolonging the commentary, but I'm sorry, I cannot help myself because this is a public health concern. If there are more critical cases, it is because people wait too late, people are scared, people don't know any better, and that's the job of communicators. Okay, in government po. Hindi lang po kaming mga nasa media. Pagkatas pag nagsalita kami, sasabihin ninyong know-it-all kami, nagmamarunong po. Hindi po. Magtulungan tayo. Okay. Speaking of Metro Manila, mayors in the region are likely to agree on extending general community quarantine or GCQ for another month. That is, even if the tally of new COVID-19 cases dwindles. Metro Manila Council Chairman and Parañaque City Mayor Edwin Olivares said that he believes GCQ must be extended for another month and that some of his counterpart mayors agree. The Metro Manila Council is set to meet on Sunday to have a final unified stand on their recommendation of quarantine protocols to the Interagency Task Force. Ang tanong, the multi-million dollar question is, what would the difference be? What difference will it make? Kasi po, sinasabi nila, if you are 60 and above with comorbidity, you must stay home. If you are 20 and below, you must stay home. So, same old pa rin tayo. Ewan ko lang po, hindi ako masyadong maalam dito. Tatanungin natin mamaya yung mga guests natin, ano ba magiging kaibahan ng MGCQ at saka GCQ? Kasi I think that's the problem. We need to have an understanding and an appreciation of the difference. Because if we will, as our guest said yesterday, puro lang labels yan, at pagdating naman sa kalsada, pare-pareho lang, pre-preho, as the kids would say, then what's the point, okay? But if there is a real difference, and I think it is mostly for business, then, I don't know, the common Filipino, hindi wala sa kanya. Parang ma at pa, malay nila at pakialam nila. Okay, and eto, medyo good news. The return of the PBA is getting closer as the IATF has given a provisional approval for the league to run a bubble setup. As such, the PBA looks to start the 2-month Clark bubble on the 11th of October. The teams, its players, coaches, and staff have undergone swab tests and will go on a 5-day home quarantine before leaving for Clark on September 28 and 29. Later on the show, we will speak with Deputy Chief Implementer of the National Task Force Against COVID-19 and Testing Czar Vince Dizon, who was instrumental in setting up the PBA restart. Okay. So, ayan po, yung mga balita, nabasa ko rin kahapon, yung bio ko na, I forgot, chairman ba siya or something, Coach Eric Altamirano, nabasa ko rin that Commissioner Baham Mitra of the Philippine Games and Amusement Board, or I think yun na. Alam nyo, hirap pag matanda na, iba-iba yung term nung unang panahon eh. Anyway, pag papayagan na rin, baka payagan na yung chooks to go kasi nakita nila yung 3-on-3. So medyo dadami-dami na. Mangyayari yan, may PBA ka na, meron ka na nung 3-on-3, pagkatapos yung mga volleyball. Hopefully, we will have some more activity. Contained, yes, but at least yung mga athletes will get back in shape, will have competitions, etc. And the public will have something else to watch. Maliban dun sa mga dahon sa bintana ng mga bahay nila. Okay. Puntahan na po natin ang serious business natin for today. Let's speak with the President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines regarding this issue of SALENS, lifestyle check, etc. Attorney Domingo Egon Cayosa. Good morning, Attorney.
Good morning, Cito, and good morning to our televiewers.
I'm sure being a veteran lawyer and president of the IBP, you've already done your study, the briefs, you've read through the briefs regarding the announcements or the revelation of Ombudsman Martires in Congress na sinasabi niya parang wala namang saysay yung yung SALN na yan at saka yung lifestyle check. In fact, nagagamit pa pang ape ng government officials. What's the response? What's your response as a lawyer, citizen, and also the IBP, Attorney?
Well, the recent initiatives of the Ombudsman to even suggest the abolishment of his office the restrictions on SALN and the announcement that he has stopped lifestyle check is really unfortunate, and it can even be tragic because the law is there, and more importantly, the Constitution is there. The letter and spirit of the Constitution regarding SALN and the Office of the Ombudsman is very clear. So instead of doing this, perhaps they could consider just doing better, not abolishing these transparency mechanisms. Because SALN, in the first place, cannot be abolished by the, or cannot be done away with by the ombudsman or even by Congress, because it's part of our Constitution. You need a constitutional amendment to do that. Neither can they by themselves abolish the office of the ombudsman or even Congress, because again, the Constitution requires the office of the ombudsman. So it is very unfortunate. Perhaps we can understand the frustration of the ombudsman. He has been in office for 2 years, but in management, if things don't go well, you just don't abolish the mechanisms or the office. You improve your performance. You do more, you do faster, you do better. So that might be a better approach rather than publicly call for these restrictions and doing away with the office. It will only, of course, it frustrates all of us to hear this from the main implementer of the anti-corruption campaign of government. But it, I suppose, elates the grafters, yung magnanakaw sa kaban ng bayan. Tuwang-tuwa sila sa mga pronouncement na ganito.
Okay. Now, Attorney, I don't know if you would be in the position to comment on it kasi syempre may mga bagay-bagay na requires research. But would you by any chance know how effective, useful these lifestyle checks are, yung SALNs, and as well as the claim of Ombudsman Martires na nawe-weaponize raw against public officials. Kasi we tried to get the ombudsman. Alam niyo, medyo ini-snub kami ng mga mga maiilap na mga tao eh. Eh kami naman gusto lang namin magtanong, hindi naman kami nandidil-dil ng asin sa sugat. Anyway, attorney, what is your knowledge on this?
Well, the first question, how effective is the SALN and the lifestyle check? You know, the ombudsman is not the only repository of the SALN. As a matter of fact, the Office of the President is also a repository. The Civil Service Commission is also a repository. And if you look at the records, what Civil Service has already come up in the open and said, as far as we're concerned, hindi naman wine-weaponize yung pagkuha ng SALN sa amin. And this is a best practice all over the developed world. And it has been proven to be an effective deterrence against graft and corruption. And also, this transparency mechanism in many countries have helped enforce public accountability of public officials, because everybody has access to it. And it's more of a deterrence rather than a tool in criminal prosecution. And that's the whole idea in the Constitution, that everybody should have access. As a matter of fact, under the SALN law, there are only 2 exceptions to the access of the public and media to SALN. One is if it is contrary to morals and public policy. And secondly, if it is for commercial purposes. And even media outlets, commercial media outlets are not deprived of the SALN as long as it is for objective media reports. So these are the only 2 exceptions. So it has been effective. Now, lifestyle check, in the past, other ombuds persons made use of this quite effectively. And mind you, Cito, it's not only the ombudsman that can do lifestyle check. As a matter of fact, NBI does lifestyle check, PNP, any government office can do lifestyle check, DOJ can do that. As a matter of fact, in the past administrations, the Office of the President actually conducted lifestyle checks. And it was effective in pressuring the perceived corrupt officers to just resign rather than face criminal prosecution. Abroad, in Hong Kong, history would tell us and data would show us that the private sector in Hong Kong supported and funded lifestyle check of their police officers. And that was very effective in cleansing the Hong Kong police of scalawags and corrupt officials. So it has been shown to be very effective. So we don't really know what statistics would be the basis for this claim. Perhaps it's his own personal perception, but it would be good to review the statistics because other ombudsmen have used it before and it helps.
Yeah, am I correct to say that when a public official, appointed or elected, files his SALN, his Statement of Assets and Liabilities, it is his declaration. Kumbaga, yun yung claim niya. Yun yung personal claim niya na ito yung pag-aari ko, this is how much I own, this is how much I owe, etc. So, parang weird na it can be weaponized. I mean, it can be weaponized if what you claim is not connect, how do you put it? Comparative to what you actually have. Kumbaga, sabi mo, ang relo mo, Seiko, pagkatas makikita Rolex.
Yes, and the SALN, mind you, is under oath. And the public official has to file that every year. April 30 ang deadline. And even after he retires, he's supposed to still, the year after, must still submit his SALN. Why is that? So that anybody, any Filipino, can look at it and audit because it's under oath. So if you lie, then you will be held accountable. That's a crime. And so that's the beauty of the SALN because everybody can look into it. Now, this issue of it being weaponized, civil services, as far as they're concerned, they haven't encountered any of this being weaponized. Secondly, weaponized is a technical legal term and even a colloquial term. But if in exceptional circumstances where people might maliciously use it, the public official has a recourse. He can file charges against the person using that illegally. So, it's ironic that the number one graft buster should be trying to protect the public official when in fact the public official has his many legal recourse because the law also penalizes the misuse of the SALN. So that's the exception. So it's unfortunate, really. It's a sad turn of events, and it is contrary to the declared policy of the presidency that one of his key campaign and program is anti-corruption. But now we have the ombudsman, the prime graft buster, taking away or restricting these tested and proven transparency mechanisms and accountability mechanisms.
It's hard to believe what Conchita Carpio Morales said na baka na misappreciate lang o na misread lang ni Ombudsman Martires yung batas because from what I remember, Ombudsman Martires used to be a Supreme Court justice, correct?
Yes, and before that, he was also Sandigan Bayan. So he's an expert in these things. I believe he might be out of frustration. He mentioned those things. But, when you occupy high positions in government, you have to calibrate your statements because people can misconstrue it. Now,
but it's not
perception
only...
is very important.
Yeah, attorney, but it's not only a statement. From what I read in the news, parang meron na siyang instruction within the ombudsman na, pag may nanghingi ng SALN ng mga Office of the Ombudsman, you are not to release it, etc. Parang except if there is a notarized approval or consent from the person whose SALN is being requested. I mean, you mentioned the word constitutional earlier. I don't want to steer a hornet's nest here, pero if the principal anti-corruption head is cutting its own arm by disallowing, disregarding lifestyle check and SALNs, etc., wouldn't this be grounds for impeachment?
Well, it depends upon the politicians because impeachment has to come from Congress.
Mm.
But then, of course, if you look at the records of the ombudsman also, uh,
Mm.
quite a number of our legislators and top officials, present and in the past, are under trial or under investigation by the ombudsman. So it will be very difficult also to think of them supporting an impeachment bid because pwede rin silang higpitan. So, but if they really want to hold him accountable, at least they should ask him to clarify these things. But you're correct. It's not only sabi-sabi. He has signed a circular limiting access, severely limiting access to SALN, including media. And that's what very disturbing
Mm.
because it is a big setback in any anti-corruption charge when you keep SALN very private and you erect obstacles to access to SALN. When in fact, if you look at the Freedom of Information executive
Yeah.
order of the president signed much earlier in his term, these are supposed to be easily available to the public. So now there's a conflict at the very least, this miscoordination between the different institutions of government. So it makes us wonder, are we really serious about anti-corruption or kulang lang ng coordination? It's also sad, if you would note, in his appearance in Congress, he said that the Office of the Ombudsman hasn't talked to PCGG the past 2 years. I wonder if they've been also talking with the PACC. These are all anti-corruption agencies. So if that were true, we really see a situation where there is less coordination in among the different arms of government leading the anti-corruption campaign of this administration.
Okay, my last question, Attorney Cayosa, is in what way, or how serious will these decisions of Ombudsman Martires affect the effectivity or the ability of the ombudsman to go after corrupt people in government?
Well, it will severely hinder and limit because, perception is very important. We could understand his decision to focus more on the administrative aspect rather than the criminal aspect. So that may be so. But when you come out with policy initiatives that do away with techniques and mechanisms for public accountability and transparency, then you are pulling the rug from under your feet and it renders you less effective. We wish him well, and we hope other sectors can help him, and perhaps the other anti-graft SARS of government and the ombudsman should sit together and sift through all of this. Is this the right way to go forward? They only have less than 2 years to deliver on the promise of anti-corruption. This is not a welcome move. It runs counter to the declared policy of being serious against the corrupt in government.
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney, and please continue to share your knowledge to the public. More power to the IBP, and I join you in your prayer that the good ombudsman will find wisdom in the coming days, and that the public and as well as the government officials will speak to him on this matter, because the last thing we need is for the chief anti-corruption leader cutting off his own hand. Thank you very much, Attorney.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. That's Attorney Domingo Egon Cayosa. And in case you're wondering, Cito, why are you pursuing this? Alam niyo po, these are fundamental issues. Kumbaga, pag ito pinalampas ninyo, hindi nyo binigyan ng tamang pansin o halaga, if you do not give importance to these things, next thing you know, it will take an army just to investigate a corrupt government official. And look, this is not about criticizing government officials or government employees. Majority of government officials, I love you. I have many students. I've had over 500, 600 government students Diyan lang po sa Development Academy of the Philippines, and I've seen their dedication. I have worked with the PNP, etc., DepEd, etc. Ako po yung nagbibigay ng training. And you have to admire their dedication. But you know, one rotten apple, one uod, one tulisan, masisira yung reputasyon ng lahat. And when we take away the tools, the instruments, or the established ways of tracking and finding these criminals, and when we do things that are, as Attorney Cayosa said, not in keeping with the spirit of the Constitution, we have to be very concerned and we have to pay attention. Okay? So, we'll go for a break, and when we return, kausapin naman natin si Joey Concepcion, and then Vince Dizon, and then Lindy Pellicer and her daughter here on Agenda. You're back on Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, and at this point of the program, let's welcome the Testing Czar, the guy who is essentially running the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, and medyo pati pala basketball naatang na sa kanya. Medyo nakakaawa na itong mama. Ewan ko kung nakikita pa siya ng mga pamilya niya, ng misis niya. Okay, let's bring in Secretary and President and CEO of Basis Conversion Development Authority, Deputy Chief Implementer of the National Action Plan Against COVID-19, and the country's testing czar. Ang pagkaalam ko, secretary na rin ang kanyang level, Vince Dizon. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sir Cito. Magandang umaga po.
Ay, nako, Sito lang po. Ano na ba title mo, sir? Secretary ba o president? Paano ba?
Wala po, sir. Vince lang po. Hindi na po kailangan yung titulo, sir.
Okay. Sir Vince, matanong ko lang, no? What is the state of affairs as far as the testing goes? Because it seems that many new technologies have popped up in the last month. There is the antigen, and then there is this saliva-based, gargle-based technology from Israel. And then there is a move of the DOH para magkaroon ng price cap doon sa mga COVID testing. Could you give us an update, sir?
Yes, sir. Opo, Sir Cito. Alam niyo naman po, no, na nung unang mga buwan nitong laban natin sa pandemic, talagang hirap na hirap po tayo dahil halos wala tayong capacity at all to test. In February, we only had one laboratory. And we really were not able to detect very quickly yung pong mga nagkakasakit sa atin. However, through the efforts of the national government as well as the private sector and our local governments, that has greatly improved. So now we have already about 130 plus laboratories to test using RT-PCR. And at the same time, yung pong napakababa nating testing output nung mga buwan ng Marso, Abril, Mayo, ngayon halos mahigit 3.5 million na po ang natetest natin nationwide. Pero kulang pa rin po yun. We still have to be able to more aggressively test. Pero ang pinaka-importante po kasi talaga ngayon, lalong-lalo na nagbubukas na tayo ng ekonomiya, na kailangan na talaga, is the speed of testing. The speed by which our people get their results. That is now what is most critical, especially as we open up the economy. So now, mabilis po ang mga technologies na lumalabas sa buong mundo. Kagaya nung sinabi nyo, Sir Cito, no, may saliva, may antigen, may breath, no, yung hihinga ka lang. Madidetect na kung may COVID ka o wala.
At
nagpapasalamat tayo.
At saka, Sir Vince, may aso na rin. May aso na rin na nakaka-detect kung may COVID ka.
Opo, meron din po tayong nakikitang gano'n. No? So, ang challenge po talaga sa atin, no, is kailangan mabilis tayong mag-adapt at mabilis nating magamit. Kasi ang critical po sa COVID-19 response is really the speed of the response. The shortcoming of RT-PCR is that it takes very long to get the results. Ang pinakamabilis na po dyan, 24 hours. Minsan aabutin ng 2, 3, 5. Nung una, aabutin pa mahigit 1 linggo bago mamakuha ang iyong resulta. And ano po talaga, malaking problema po yon sa response. So, kung meron po tayong mga makukuhang mga bagong teknolohiya na mapapabilis tulad ng antigen na 15 minutes lang, makukuha mo na ang iyong resulta, napakalaking bagay po nun, Sir Cito.
Okay, ngayon, kasi ang naging direksyon ngayon, and pasensya ka na, Sir Vince, ang tagal ko nang kinukulit yung mga nasa DOH at nasa gobyerno na lagyan ng price ceiling ang mga testing, no, COVID test. Ano ba ang balak mo? Kasi akala ko noon puro ang trabaho mo lang was to make sure that the testing is put to speed. But apparently, you are also in charge of deciding what testing methods and how much. Are you going to push for a price ceiling on the testing methods?
Unang-una po, no, I'm not the one... I'm really not the one in charge of that, no, and I have no authority over regulatory matters, Sir Cito. No? Like you said, our role in the
Pasensya ka
NTF is
na.
really
Pasensya ka na, Sir Vince, kasi yung sinabi kong yon base naman sa sinabi din on the show of another official. Kanya sinabi siya, masisira
ah
ulo ko kung minsan eh.
opo, opo, pasensya na po. But just to clarify lang po, no, our job
Oo.
po talaga sa National Task Force is to be able to deploy the testing needs of the entire country ng mabilis. Pero
Okay.
po yung regulatory, meaning sino ang magdidesisyon, ito bang test na ito ay pwede na ba natin gamitin sa Pilipinas o hindi? Magkano ang test na ito? Yan po ay regulatory function po yan ng Department of Health at yung mga iba't ibang ahensya sa ilalim ng Department of Health, tulad na rin ng Food and Drug Administration as one of
Mhm.
them. No?
Okay.
Pero alam nyo po, tuloy-tuloy po ang aming pakikipag-usap sa DOH at gaya nyo po, pinipilit din po namin at tinutulak namin na mas mabilis nating ma-adapt itong mga bagong mga teknolohiya kasi sa enforcement ay sa implementation po on the ground, no, talagang yung bilis po ng galaw natin ang pinaka-importante.
Mhm.
Ngayon, doon naman po sa CAP, naniniwala po kami na habang dumadami ang mga testing technologies, talagang ang presyo po niyan ay dapat pababa. No?
Mhm.
And nakikita naman po natin yan, no, from nung una 8,000 po ang charge at i-reimburse ng PhilHealth para sa RT-PCR. Ngayon po 3,000 plus na lang. And tingin po natin with the new technologies na lumalabas, lalo pang bababa ang presyo at magiging mas accessible po ang testing para sa marami nating mga kababayan.
Sir Vince, nung una kong nadinig itong antigen testing, sinabihan ko nga yung kapatid ko, hoy, mag-ingat kayo, baka mamaya fake news yan. Sobrang bilis kanyo ng resulta. Within hours daw, meron ng resulta. At saka, ang balita ko, mga 2,000 lang ang price ng antigen.
Yes pa.
Ano ba yung mga alam ninyo tungkol dito sa antigen at saka yung pinupush ni Joey Concepcion din, yung tungkol sa gargle, yung Israeli technology?
Unang-una po, nagpapasalamat po tayo sa private sector, no? Kasi talagang sila ang agresibong nagtutulak nitong mga bagong technologies, no? Tulad ni Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion, napalaki po ng role nila dito sa ating pag-expand ng ating testing. Ang antigen po ay isang form of test na ginagamit na po sa ibang bansa tulad ng Amerika, ginagamit na po yan sa Europe, ginagamit na po sa Korea, sa Japan. At yan po ay inaral na rin po ng iba't ibang health agencies tulad ng WHO at ng Centers for Disease Control. Ito po ay isang validated test na hindi po oras, Sir Cito, minutes lang po ang binibilang natin. To be exact, 15 minutes lalabas na po ang
Wow.
resulta from the time na ikaw ay swab. So ito po ay isa swab ka din, kukuha ng specimen via swab. Pero po ang sinusukat po nito, ang tinetest nito ay yung presence ng proteins ng virus sa ating sistema kung meron tayo. Ngayon po, ito po ay kasalukuyang binavalidate ng ating regulatory agencies. Meron pong kasalukuyang pilot na ginagawa ngayon sa Baguio City. Dahil po, alam niyo naman po, ang Baguio nag-announce na magbubukas na siya ng turismo at ngayon po pinapilot ang antigen testing sa Baguio. At magpo-propose din po kami ng iba pang mga pilot. Pero hopefully po, pagkatapos nito mga pilot na ito, talagang ma-validate na, ma-approve na, at magamit na po. Kasi po, napaka-laki po ng epekto nito sa ating response dahil po napakabilis niya at accurate din po siya sa pagtetest for COVID-19.
Ito po ba, Sec Vince, ito po ba ay blood-based o
Hindi po.
saliva-based?
Ito po ay swab-based po ito, no?
Aha.
Naso swab po siya. So kumukuha po ng specimen sa ilong ng ating mga kababayan, sa ilong ng ating mga kababayan. Kaparehas din po ng PCR, no? It's a swab-based test.
Okay.
Pero yun nga, the technology provides for a faster turnaround time at ano din po siya, tinatawag siyang point of care test. Ibig sabihin, hindi po siya kailangan ng dumaan sa laboratorio. Kaya po mabilis na nakukuha ang resulta.
Okay, kamusta naman po yung logistics natin as far as antigen is concerned? Kasi I agree with what you're saying. Kung okay na yan, mabalidate yan, pwede mo nang ilagay yan sa lahat ng pier, lahat ng airport. Wala na tayong mga quarantine kasi mabilisan, matetest na natin.
Opo.
Do we
Ano po,
have enough?
I think the supply is available. There are several suppliers all over the world from various countries na makakabili po ang Pilipinas. Pero ang ano lang po, ang kailangan lang pong i-caution natin is ang kasama po kasi sa validation ng DOH at ng ating mga experts ay yung protocols kung paano siya gagamitin. Kung positive ka, anong gagawin? Kung negative ka, anong mga dagdag na protocols ang gagawin? So yun po ang critical para din po maiwasan natin yung mga hindi siguradong mga resulta. Dahil alam nyo naman, Sir Cito, no? Kahit na ang PCR test, yung tinatawag nilang gold standard, hindi pa rin ito perfect test. Wala pong perfect test for COVID-19. Lahat po may error factor. Kaya po merong mga kinakailangan na protocols na isama dito. So yun po ang hinihintay natin ngayon sa ating mga experts sa DOH.
Okay, so kung matetest, kailangan pa rin mag-quarantine, Sec Vince?
Depende po sa protocols at depende po sa resulta. No? Yun po ang hinihintay natin ngayon, Sir Cito. So hindi lang ako makakomment pa. Ayoko pong unahan yung ating mga experts.
Ay, tama naman po yun. Ngayon, yung sinasabi ni Joey Concepcion, yung Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion, yung dun sa Israeli, yung mumug lang, talo-talo na.
Very, very exciting po yan, Sir Cito.
Oh.
Yung saliva test and yung breath test na galing sa Israel. Exciting po yan. Sana po talaga medyo mapabilis ang ating validation dito sa Pilipinas. At tingin ko naman po kung ito'y ginagamit na at na-validate na sa ibang bansa na talagang dalubhasa naman dito sa mga teknolohiyang to, siguro dapat mapabilis na natin din ang validation dito sa ating bansa para magamit na natin.
What are we doing for our part? Kasi sabi mo nga, nandiyan na yung gamit, nandiyan na yung technology, pero kailangan talaga magawa natin ng paraan na masubukan ito at masiguro. Kasi di ba noon meron tayo nung ano ba yung tawag doon? Yung
rapid antibody test.
Yung rapid. Mabilis nga, pero bandang uli sabi nila, hindi pwede yan para sa mga biyahe, magre-relocate, etc.
Tama po. Kaya importante din po, Sir Cito, yung protocols. Yun po ay ginagawa ng ating mga experts sa DOH at kasama na rin po ang ating mga medical associations na tumutulong. Ang ginagawa po natin ngayon is nagpapilot po tayo. Magpapilot sa Baguio at magpo-propose pa po kami ng ibang mga pilots para po mas maaral ng mabuti and mabilis na nating ma-validate at magamit.
Okay, I'm sure sawan-sawa ka ng kakakwento tungkol sa testing. Pag-usapan naman natin yung I'm sure mas ganado ka, yung basketball. At saka kung may bala ka maging mayor ng New Clark City.
Hindi po. Una-una po, nagpapasalamat po tayo sa mga sumuporta under the leadership po ni Chairman Ricky Vargas, ni Commissioner Willie Marshall, ang mga owners po ng teams, si Mr. Ramon Ang, si Mr. Manny Pangilinan, at ang iba't iba pong mga owners po, si Mr. Dennis Uy at iba pong mga owners ng PBA. Dahil po talagang lahat po ginawa nila para maibalik po ang basketball sa buhay natin dito kahit na ngayon naghihirap tayong lahat dito sa COVID-19, at least mabaibabalik natin ang favorite pastime nating mga Pilipino, ang basketball. Kaya po nagpapasalamat din po tayo sa national government, sa IATF, kay Senator Bongo, kay Speaker Alan Cayetano na talagang sumuporta sa pagbabalik ng PBA. At next, sa mga susunod na linggo po, babalik na po ang PBA sa Clark. Co-host po natin ang PBA Bubble sa Clark. At ma-assure po natin ang lahat ng ating mga players, coaches, staff na very secure and very safe po yung gagawin nating PBA Bubble sa Clark para po sa enjoyment ng ating mga kababayan.
Very experienced ka naman dyan, Sec Vince, kasi hinawakan mo na rin yung New Clark noon ng Southeast Asian Games. Pero we're playing under very different
Very
circumstances.
different. Very
It's,
different.
I think it's almost going to look like, parang yung nasa sine, yung mga contagion, martial law, etc. How are you going to make it more entertaining, so to speak?
Unang-una po, in terms of safety protocols, because that's really the most important, we have to ensure the safety of everybody in the PBA bubble.
Okay.
Is we benchmark the most successful sports bubbles in the world. Benchmark po natin ang NBA, ang Major League Soccer sa US, ang National Hockey League, at ang National Football League. Ito po ang mga most successful dahil tuloy-tuloy po ang kanilang mga liga pero zero po ang kaso ng COVID-19 sa kanila. So, ang mga protocols po nila, yun po ang mga gagamitin natin at para po masigurado. Pero ang maganda rin po sa Clark is nandyan po yung infrastructure, lalo na yung digital infrastructure. Dahil alam nyo naman po, wala pong spectators, physical na manunood ng ating games. No? Lahat po ito ay bo-broadcast lang, I think sa Channel 5 din. At syempre, over the internet, no, para sa lahat ng ating mga manonood, para ma-enjoy nila.
Okay, well, I'm sure many people have said it, but I will publicly say it. I am impressed with your performance, your dedication, and your personal sacrifice kasi alam ko po na katulad ng ibang mga government officials, marami sa inyo halos hindi na nakikita yung pamilya or hindi makauwi kasi dahil nga baka naka-expose, etc. And I just want to say thank you for your efforts and your continuing commitment. I hope that the good Lord will bless you, your staff, and magkita na lang tayo kung kailan tayo magkikita. Good luck, sir.
Opo. Naku, maraming salamat po, Sir Cito, and please stay safe po and God bless po. Lagi
Okay.
sa'yo sa pamilya mo. Thank you so much po.
Thank you very much, Secretary Vince Dizon. Ayan po, no, meron na kayong information because that's really what I want to do personally. Delve more on the knowledge, on the information, the details, whether it's law, whether it's medicine or testing facilities. And speaking of testing, let's go to our next guest kasi pinakukulit ko siya sa staff ko para ma-interview sana natin yung mga Israeli, find out about this gargle or breath analyzer for COVID-19. Let's bring in Presidential Advisor and Agenda Regular Joey Concepcion. Joey, good morning. Are you there?
Good morning, Cito. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Senyor, kindly share naman sa amin yung resulta ng meeting mo, presentation with the Israeli group regarding that new testing method for COVID-19.
Well, the new testing method, basically, there are two groups. No? One, the first group that presented 2 weeks ago was the group of Glenn Yu. He's the point person here, the distributor for basically the saliva, no? And that's taking off pretty well. And yesterday we had a meeting with the group that is bringing the breath testing, and this is really more on. It's the Terra Group is one of the biggest technology companies in Israel, and here it's represented by Black Seal. That's with Samuel Weiss and Sahar Tujerman. No? So these are Israel people. They live here, but Terra Group is based in Israel, and they're funded by the Israel Defense Ministry. No? So they're not only into medical testing, but into innovations in water, etc., etc. So who is the point person here with government that's helping me and these two distributors? By the way, people think that we are in the business of testing. I want to make it clear. All of those testing innovations, from rapid antibody test kits to pooled PCR test to antigen to these two new technologies, we are just helping people come into the country quickly, making sure that they are talking to the right people and getting it used by the private sector and eventually the LGUs. No?
Mhm.
So I want to correct that misperception.
Baka
Now,
hindi nila alam, Joey, na yung best product mo, yung popcorn mo, na nami-miss ko na. At saka yung mga aircon ninyo. Talagang, well, you know, well, there is a saying, Joey, and you have to get used to that. When a tree is bearing so much fruit, Filipinos will always get a stone to hurl at it.
yeah,
So,
I know.
sorry, buddy, that's a part of it. But in any case, please carry on.
Yeah. Let me add to that also ice cream and flour milling, and we're one of the largest food companies here. So I really don't need that. I'm just doing
Yeah.
this because our MSMEs are really in trouble. And the only way to save them, as Secretary Vince said earlier, we have to create visibility. And to create visibility, you have to allow all the testing innovations to come to this country. And that is what the private sector is doing. So what is going to happen? Director Jimmy Montoya is arranging eventually these two groups will present to a board, but that's just for formality. But the idea is to conduct trials already in the country. The NBA is using the breath. They were doing also trials with the NBA. Hong Kong is using, I'm told, the saliva right now. I don't know if they're using it, but these are all trials that are being done by these two Israel companies all over the world. No, it is promising, definitely. But the clarity is still not as clear as on the antigen test kits. No, okay.
Yeah.
We have the gold standard, which is PCR. We now funded the pool PCR. We finished with Makati. We're moving to the rest of the areas. There are things that we've seen, and we're now mobilizing to make sure that DOH issues the protocols as soon as possible for pool PCR. As Sec Vince was saying, antigen is already, to me, a winner. No, it's a winner because we use it. I use it. I use it for people who come to the house for dinner, and you can really see. Of course, there will always be false negatives, and that's where the weak point of the antigen is. And every test has a weak point, but you have to take a calculated risk. But the speed of the antigen is just 15 minutes. Now, these two tests of the Israel companies, they're 1 minute tests. No? Basically, there's that fast. They don't use labs. You don't need labs with these two Israel technologies, no? Either the saliva or the breath. It is basically a computer that uses a spectra light, no? And they look at the different how it comes out, and it matches, no? Basically. And this is what they're trying to do, get more trials going so that this will be approved. And according to Director Jimmy, if Israel declares it for emergency use, automatically the Philippines can also declare it for emergency use. But now the mandate is let us do the trials immediately. And I think there's no problem with trials. That will be welcomed, provided it's funded by both private sector groups, and they will fund it.
But the question is, okay, how long will the trials be? And once all of this passes the test, will there be sufficient supplies given that the entire world is fighting over tests and also the cost of those tests?
Well, definitely, the founder of the Terra Group who invented this was in the Zoom meeting yesterday, and likewise with the other group for saliva, they were both there. They will give priority to the Philippines. They have already appointed their partners here, no? As I mentioned, and we're moving to that stage. What is needed to see is how good are these tests really. No, I mean, we need to see the numbers. Is it effective only for asymptomatic, or is it going to be effective also for asymptomatic, which is coming out that the Philippine cases are about 40 to 50% asymptomatic, and that is the challenge that we see right now. This is where the infection is happening, basically in the asymptomatic people who hardly feel it, are moving around, and are contaminating people. So we really have to test asymptomatic. And tama rin si Vince, we just have to test thousands and thousands of people. Let's bring down the cost of testing. We are bringing it down with pool PCR, although medyo we cannot hit our target because in some areas the the level of prevalence of the infection is a bit high at the 10% level. So we're using now pools of 5. But nevertheless, the cost of PCR tests in the Philippines, to me, is a joke. 4,000, 8,000 pesos. Not everybody can afford that. So we have to bring that down, to my mind, between the 1,500 to 2,000 peso level. For information, antigen test kits, one of the best, is being sold only for between 680 to 750 pesos without the swabber. Now, it's easy for you to train your own person to do swabbing because it's not difficult to swab. My daughter swabs basically her friends who come to the house for dinner, no? And if they don't pass that test, they are not invited to the dinner. So most households are using this already as a defense, no, for the security. And a lot of infection is happening with our household because some of them are allowed to go home, no? And that's where infection comes into the house. So I think this is the way forward for tourism to really open up, Cito. And tourism, and I know Secretary Berna is really trying to do her best, but we cannot rely really on PCR because ang bagal nun. By the time, how much is a PCR? I was talking to Henry Chunsoy of Henan Group last night. He owns about 12 hotels in Bora, and he was telling me, can you please tell them, if I were to pay 4,000 to 8,000 pesos, I mean, the tourist will back out because that's maybe the cost of his entire stay in my hotel.
Bingo, because when they said PCR, and I understand that government officials or local government officials will want testing, but with the PCR costing 4,000 to 6,000, which is what my wife and daughter paid, 6,000 each, I'm not going to be interested in flying out, the cost of the flight, the PCR, etc. Parang na nag-abroad nun. In any case, Joey, before we go, can we just get an update? What happened to the pool testing in Makati for PCR? You championed that, you pushed for it, it was conducted. What were the results?
Well, the results vary from barangay to barangay. The highest, I'm told, is a prevalence of maybe close to about 13%. But there are areas that are low, no. So, but we're now testing a group that is confined to a building, I'm told, in Makati, no. So this is part of the research. It's not stopped. So now we're moving to other areas like Pasig, Marikina is next. So there's certain priority sectors. So as we do this testing, and we're already using pools of 5, we are now seeing what is the real cost. Of course, when the prevalence is high, then you will have a lot of retakes. But still, it's still viable even at a higher prevalence because, Cito, the cost of testing is really still very expensive. So with pool PCR and pools of 5, even if you have to retest 25% of the total pool because they are positive, it still is cheaper because, as you said, 3,500 to 5,000 pesos. No? But maybe when PCR testing goes down to 2,500 or 2,000, then it comes close. But then again, it's still cheaper than what many people are doing. Yes, it is going fine. And DOH is working side by side, and with Janet Garin, Congresswoman Janet Garin, is running this program. So the more we are targeting about 14 LGUs, thereabouts, no, to roll this out and be able to get the real data. And hopefully DOH releases the protocol. So all the labs can now start doing pooled PCR testing, and they can increase their capacity. We have donated equipments again to some hospitals because it requires a certain type of extraction machine brand to be able to do it. No, and so we've donated to I think about 5 to 8 hospitals as well. No?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the update, Joey. And as always, thank you for your commitment, your efforts to just bring
Tito,
to the
one last
yeah.
plug.
Okay.
You know, we're really pushing that we move towards MGCQ. I think it is important. In the last quarter, this is the time that we have to give a chance to our micro and small entrepreneurs from October to December. This is the peak of sales, people are suggesting let's spend, let's bring back confidence. If we are to do it, let's take the risk and do it now between October to December so that the jump start to next year will be good. Because you don't want to end the year with a sad note, and that's Christmas. So we want all the entrepreneurs to open their business. Let's open it safely. Let's massively do all of this testing, as Sec Vince was saying, and let's allow people to recoup all their losses that started in March 15 this year. So let's give them this chance. And we came out with a release together with the business organizations today that hopefully the IATF would consider opening up the economy to MGCQ for Metro Manila this coming October to December.
Okay, thank you very much, Joey. And we will monitor that movement there. And we hope that you continue in your commitment to help the nation. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a presidential advisor on entrepreneurship and national volunteer for the development and search for options, testing options against COVID-19. Hindi po niya negosyo yan. Nako, baryang-barya kay Joey Concepcion yung mga testing na yan. Dami nilang negosyo yung kanilang pamilya. Yan yung Concepcion Industries eh. No? So wag niyo nang pagsuspetsahan, wag niyo nang pagbintangan. Nagtatrabaho na nga yung tao na libre para sa ating lahat, eh meron pa kayong sasabihin. Tinamaan kayo ng mga ewan, wala kayong magawa, magdasal na lang tayo. Okay, we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we will bring in the feature pair for the agenda today. Yung bang napakagagandang boses na nadidinig nyo sa eroplano at sa iba pang mga advertisement o mga notisya here on Agenda. Okay, we're back here on Agenda, and at this stage or this part of the program, I'd like to bring in a friend and her daughter. And ito naman po ay very interesting because a lot of you are going around saying, what can I do? I don't have capital. I don't have a certificate. I don't have this. I don't have that. How can I earn a living? And sometimes you just need to look at the mirror. Or maybe in the case of our next guest, Lindy Pellicer and Inka Magnaye, Lindy is the mother, Inka is the daughter. Their resource or their capital are their voices. Let's bring in Lindy and Inka. Welcome to the program, ladies.
Hi, Kuya Cito.
Good morning.
Hi, guys.
Good
Lindy.
morning. Hi.
I decided, I figured I've seen so much of Inka's posts on Facebook. I've seen your posts on Facebook. And I was saying to myself, this is something Filipinos should see, that you don't need to have a fortune. You don't have to have a degree. What you need is talent. Use your talent, diba? So, Lindy,
Yes.
I'll start with you if you don't mind, and then we can go to
Sure.
Inka. Kasi,
Sure, Kuya.
paano ka ba napasok? How did you get into this voice talent business?
Well, wow. Maybe more than 30 years ago na, I auditioned for a newscaster post in
Mhm.
99.5 RT back then.
Okay.
And ever since that time, I made it. And then I was a newscaster there. And then the rest is history. And then we eventually, my ex-husband and I had
Mhm.
a recording studio, Ad Farm, and from there we just really started the business of recording and voice talents and producing radio and television commercials.
Mhm.
And then from there, until my kids, when I bore them, and they grew up practically in the studio.
Mhm. Okay.
That's what
Inka,
happened.
yeah, Inka, in your case, I mean, children will always have the problem of the shadow of the father or the mother,
Oh, yes.
and also the comparisons. What got you interested in this line of work or business?
Well, I started when I was 5, so I was already doing it even before I had the notion of any interest in
Mhm.
voicing. And I don't know, I guess it's something that I just got used to. Like, I remember being picked up from school saying, okay, before you go home, you have a recording today in an hour. Oh, okay. So it was just kind of like a normal part of my life ever since. And then I realized that I'm really good at it pala. So I just, kept
Mhm.
going. Yeah.
Okay, will somebody please call the Human Rights Commission and the Department of Labor? Child labor yan, Lindy, ah.
Noon kasi kuya, walang choice eh. Sige, ito na, sige. Might as well.
Okay, back then, there were many products. Advertising was, just so common. But as things
Yeah.
developed, as things evolved, advertising and voiceovers became fewer and fewer, tougher and tougher. I mean, how did Lindy manage to land the big accounts? I mean, so the people know, to my mind, your biggest account has been Philippine Airlines, at least.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Kuya. Well, aside from that, I've had the Johnson and Johnson, if I can mention.
Yeah, please.
I don't know if you remember the Baby is Now a Lady campaign back then. That was me. And then Tita Maggie, actually, I did a lot of Tita Maggie's voice. I dubbed her voice.
Ano?
Ang hirap. Yes, alam nyo, although Tita Maggie has a really nice voice in real life, but I don't know why pinadub pa sa akin. And noon 90s, ang hirap kaya mag-dub nun. Hindi katulad ngayon.
Mhm.
Digital na lahat. Noon, analog pa, mga splicing blocks and everything. It was hellish. But among other things, yun ang mga nagawa ko and all these other products nako because of the studio also and,
Mhm. But do
exposure
do
there.
people, because like with Inka's work, I'm familiar with it because she posts and she has so many followers who repost her post. So parang
Yeah.
hindi ko maiwasan yung batang yan, ano? So somewhere will
She's
I ever be
everywhere.
everywhere? Okay, but the question is, okay, so what about you, Inka? What do people recognize you the minute you speak? Kasi listening to you, sabi ko, oh, nako, nag-modulate na yung bata.
Yes, actually, going out, like for example, when we have to go do the groceries or something, of course, we're all in masks and face shields, but still people recognize me. And it's because I realize I got viral because of my voice. So even if I'm wearing a mask, people hear me. They're like, "You're that voiceover." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me."
Oh, okay, how about you, Lindy? Do people recognize the voice, or do they make the connection? Because
Yeah.
I've had that experience. Even with the mask, si Cito Beltran ka, no? Parang,
Very
itong,
distinct kasi ang voice mo rin.
okay, but,
True.
but in your case, what do they associate you with, Lindy?
As Inka's mom. Hindi, baliktad na ngayon, Kuya Sito. Noon,
Mm.
Anak ni Lindy at ni Jeremiah Jr. Pero ngayon, Inka's mom, there was a funny kwento lang, like 1 minute.
Yeah.
I was
Go
in
ahead.
Mercury Drug and I was buying medicines and nakatalikod ako ha. And then
Mm.
bigla na lang, there's a bunch of girls come in and then I heard it from behind. Oh my God, mami ni Inka. Sabi ko, oh dear. Sabi ko, so I kind of like turned around and said, those little things that even up to now I get really so surprised because you know how radio was before and
Mm.
we're
Mm.
always just the voice and the amount of attention that's being given to us now, especially
Mhm.
Inka and voiceovers, it's like wow, ibang iba. It's like I feel like
Mhm.
whoa, it's nicer. It's actually better now, way
Yeah, but
better.
when you were younger, Lindy, tisay ka eh. Okay, so you fit the mold of everyone's fantasy. But now Inka represents a new model, the Filipina, very ethnic but very educated, very stylish generation.
Yes.
Parang nagbago ba? Okay, the looks changed. What about the voicing or the talent part of voicing?
Well, I sound like my
Mm.
mom, so
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's
we
probably
can
still
like
the same.
share. We share projects. Sige, paki-cure naman yung ko, Inka.
Yeah,
Yung mga ganun. Yoings.
yeah,
What
true.
do you mean you share? You can pretend to be the other person? I mean, I know twins pretending to be each other, but in terms of voice, do you can actually do it? No.
Well, depends on how much we
Yeah,
have to record. But like sometimes, let's
yeah.
say for example, especially before quarantine, let's say mom has an event that she has to go to out of town, and she can't record when all of a sudden cures come in. Oh, Miss Lindy, can you cure this one line? Mom will text me, Inks, can you do this for me? So I'll just try my best to mimic her voice because I sound like her anyway. And then one line, makakalusot naman po. And then
Mm,
sometimes,
Oops.
yeah. No, but I mean, like, it works, right? Because
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the client
That.
gets their cures on time, which is the most important thing. And then sometimes if, let's say, I'm unavailable to do a recording, I'll just ask them, is it okay if I pass this on to my mom? Because she sounds like me anyway, I mean, like, I sound like her. And then they get a sample, and then they're like, oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Okay, who has
Lucky me.
yeah, but who has a tougher time of it? Is it easier for you, Lindy, to do the project that was supposed to be for Inka, a younger voice, or is it easier for Inka to pretend to be her mom?
Well, actually, it depends on the requirement. A lot of the cures that requires me, that's required of me, I let Inca do. But in Inca's case, I have not done a cure for her, but I
Mhm.
have been passed on a project now because we have more or less the same tone, the same kind of delivery and stuff.
Yeah.
So I can get away with that. But Inca has a harder time because she has to really mimic my
Yeah.
Okay. What's the fun part, or what sort of voiceovers do you really enjoy? Because me, I enjoy the interviews like this. There's no
Yeah.
pressure. It's relaxed. It's personal. But for
Yeah.
you, when it comes, pare-pareho ba yan? Trabaho, pera yan, etc. Or
No.
Inka, you're shaking your head. Tell us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed and I really miss live events because before the whole quarantine, I my primary source of income was I was a live voiceover for events, and there's something about like not being able to do a take two and doing all these voiceovers live should not make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of rush that I get from getting it right, and that's something that I really miss. Like recording in a studio is fun, but it's also always like, okay, can you do that again? Or like, oh, I made a mistake. Let's do a take two or do a safety take. When you're doing live events, there's no such thing, and I really enjoy doing that.
Okay. Lindy,
Yeah.
what what is the best project you've ever had?
Ako, wow. Um, gosh, I really can't. because all the other I like doing AVPs. I like
Mhm.
doing stuff for like something like recently I did something for mental health awareness and yung mga ganon, yung mga almost pro bono.
Mhm.
Sucker for those things because it's close to my heart and it's like an advocacy for me. So I like doing those things, although the money is not much, but I find really fulfillment and yun, mga ganon, AVPs. I am the opposite of Inka. I cannot do. I'm not so confident with live anymore because maybe it comes with age. Oh dear, my eyes failing me and stuff.
Mhm.
I prefer that I sit here all by my lonesome self and do the recording and just give it to them na lang. Yung
Mhm.
ganon.
Okay, now as far as the work is concerned, some people might have the impression, oh, swerte naman nila. What an easy, cushy job they have. You know, they get paid gazillions, and all they have to do is read the line and pretend to be actresses, voice actors or actresses. What do you have to say to people like those?
Oh, that happens all the time. Like every time people ask me, so what do you do? I'm a voice talent or I'm a radio DJ because I used to be on the air too. And then the comment is always, wow, that's so easy. All you have to do is talk. Like if it was that easy, then anyone could do it. It's
Mhm.
really not. You have to go through a lot of training, um, even just putting or just making sure that you are not monotonous in the way you speak is part of the training. So it's misconception that being a voice talent or being a DJ is easy. It actually isn't.
Okay,
I agree.
yeah, Lindy, your view on it?
Yeah, I agree. The money's good and it pays the bills.
Mhm.
But it takes a lot of because when you voice something, you have to like what Inka said before, you have to really double time and really prove na they have to hear it in your voice. Unlike when you're seen and you're acting on TV, giveaway na yan eh. When you're
Mhm.
doing a recording, you know, it gets so tiring that I get so hungry after a recording. I get
Mhm.
so parang, oh, I'm famished, parang ganon.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
takes a lot of
because
effort.
you do a TV and a radio show with Signal as well and TV5. So
Yes.
you're saying that doing voiceovers are more tiring and energy sapping.
Yeah. Yes, yes,
Uh-huh.
definitely. Yeah, because you have to really like uh, you have to dig into the script. You have to
Mhm.
really get into the mood and clients they have to say okay itong delivery this kind of sometimes you get confused parang pwedeng authoritative na friendly.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
why don't you try that?
Okay.
Yung
Okay, just before we get carried away, I think some of our viewers would want to hear some of the stuff you've done. Is there anything that you guys individually parang eto motto ko na ito, ano ko na ito, national anthem ko na itong voice over na ito. Let's start with you, Lindy.
ah, wow.
Sample. As the Japanese would say, sample.
Sample. Lately I have been doing a lot of AVP. So wala na masyado sa TV and all these brands. So
Mhm.
what I can really, really, really that really stuck to me is my J&J that the baby is now a lady. And of
Mhm.
course, Philippine Airlines, your home in the
Mhm.
sky and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Can you do
So
the Philippine Airlines or just a short bit of the Philippine Airlines?
who me?
Yeah.
Oh, I did a lot of kasi the TV and radio commercials for PAL. So
Yeah.
I don't remember the script, but it's just the byline. I'm telling you, Tita, that's why I'm not good in
Okay.
in my memory fails me. But
Okay.
it's really that their banner of home in the Philippine Airlines, your home in the sky.
Okay. I'll let Inka save you. Inka,
Yes,
save
please.
your mother.
Yes, save me. She always does. I'll
So
follow you.
the line that well people always ask me to say, especially now, is my Philippine Airlines one. So it goes Mabuhay and welcome to Philippine Airlines. We care about your safety. Please stow your baggage in the overhead bins or under the seats in front of you. This is a non-smoking flight. Smoking, including use of electronic cigarettes, is not allowed.
Okay, bravo. You saved your mother.
Thank you.
Thank,
There you
thank
go.
Lucky you, Lindy. You trained your daughter well, or else this would have ended in a bad way.
Pahiya ako, no?
In any case, ladies, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Our
It's
pleasure.
short, but at least it gives us an idea that you don't need to have a fortune. You don't need to have a lot of business plans. You just need to appreciate your own talents, and you ladies are very talented. Thank you very much for joining
Thank,
us.
Thank
thank you,
you.
Kuya Sita.
Okay, that's Lindy, Pellicer, and Inka, Magnaye, mother and daughter team who have done Philippine Airlines, Johnson and Johnson, sabi nga ni Lindy, Miss Maggie, etc. And yun po, no? I think first of all is to give focus or attention to people who are not very visible, but you know the voice. You've always heard the voice, and at least you get to see the faces. But more importantly, it's a lesson. It's a lesson that we need to appreciate the things we have within us. Within us, our talents. And before I go, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to share something. By accident or coincidence, as the case may be, this morning I was just scrolling through my phone after watching a preaching by our head pastor, our founder, Steve Merle. I'm accidentally scrolled on a short film, and the title, I believe, it's an old film, but the title, I believe, was A Man Called Ove, O-V-E. It's a Swedish film, A Man Called Ove. And it is a story of a man who is elderly, lost his wife, lost his job, wanted to end it all. And marami po sa ating during this pandemic have similar experiences. And so he goes about trying to commit suicide. But a series of events on and on and on and on kept interfering with these multiple attempts. The film is so just really uh, touching, inspiring, and at the end of the story, you realize that you may not have much nowadays, especially because of the pandemic, but there are people around you who may need you, not for the thousands or millions that you have, not for popularity, blah, blah, blah. Just being a human being in the small things, fixing things, looking after kids. Please try to find the film. I saw it on Facebook today, and I would encourage you because just within yourself, there are many things and many reasons to be helpful to others. Have a good day. Have a happy weekend. Thank you for joining us. God bless all of you.
Representative Mikey Arroyo is urging the COMELEC to consider postponing the 2022 elections.